Victory Studios in downtown Little Rock, this is Capitol View.
And good Sunday morning to you. Welcome into Capitol View. I'm Jay Burr, and here on Capitol View, every race is important on Super Tuesday, and we're highlighting all the judicial races. You can check that on our website as well. But first up, we have the Supreme Court race. Barbara Webb and Judge Chip Welch, they join us here in studio now. Guys, we appreciate you guys coming in here. This is a big one right here. It's statewide, so we certainly appreciate the time.
We both appreciate your interest.
Absolutely here. Let's just kind of start with sort of the basics here. Barbara, I'll let you go first here. Kind of sell me as John Q. voter here in Arkansas. I don't know anything about this race. Why should I vote for Barbara Webb?
Well, I'm the candidate with the most experience in this race. I've got a broad range from private practice to elected prosecuting attorney to over 14 years on the bench at all levels of the court system, both at the local city court, as at the district court, as a circuit court judge, and even as a special justice on the Arkansas Supreme Court.
All right. Judge Welch.
Well, I have been a lawyer for 45 years. Barbara's been a lawyer for 37. I've been a judge elected by the people twice, and she was appointed a judge for a year. I have tried 125 to 150 jury trials in my career. I have represented people who didn't have a voice in Arkansas, and I have maintained my court in such a way that it has won awards. So I think my experience exceeds hers.
All right. And now, I know you've been on the bench here, but are there anything that you want to bring to the table to sort of freshen up the Supreme Court, to make it either more efficient or anything like that?
Yeah, there are two or three issues that we've talked about. I talked with lawyers who practice regularly before the Supreme Court about the issues that are important to them, and first and foremost is the way that the court is organized in its reception of appeals and briefs. Right. We have an incredible percentage of cases that are kicked back either by the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court for procedural reasons, which may be as mundane as the size of the type or the margins, right, or whether or not the lawyers abstracted all of the transcript for the court or not. We're still requiring folks to regurgitate what's in the transcript that the court gets anyway. Right. And that may have been necessary back before we had copy machines, but we don't have to do that so much anymore. And so those are things that cost people money and make it much more difficult for the vast group of people that we see anymore who represent themselves in the lower courts and on their appeals. And so it just truncates the whole procedure.
All right, Ms. Webb, what do you want to try to bring to the table here?
First, I want to set the record straight a minute, because I am chief judge at workers' comp and been on the bench, both trying jury trials and non-jury trials, for more than a year, and my opponent knows that. I've been on the bench for over 14 years, but I'll answer your question.
Here we go.
I think one of the biggest opportunities the court has is new technology. Yeah. And I think, like your cell phone here, that, you know, a lot of people shop with their phones. A lot of people actually are voting with their phones in some states, not so well, but I think our court has that opportunity, and I think the current Supreme Court is looking at that option to try to be more user-friendly, to update our technology, to allow people to access the courts. For one thing, that brings transparency to the courts. People have access to the courts that way. It also does save some money, and the attorneys can, you know, submit pleadings, and even pro se claimants, people who can't afford an attorney, can use their cell phones or their technology to submit things to the court. So that's one area I'd like to see the court move in that forward in that direction.
All right, final thing here, we'll kind of get your take on here. Just briefly, how do you feel that the Supreme Court should maybe expand their role in the whole line of being sort of educators of civics and kind of how law works here in the state?
I think that's a great question. And I think our court currently does a program that's called Appeals on Wheels, where they go to the high schools. And in fact, they've done joint sessions with the Supreme Court out of Texas, down in Texarkana, across state lines. So we've done some novel things with our courts. But I think we should continue that education with our young people, because that is where they learn civics and government. That is where they learn the Constitution. And the Constitution is important. We should teach the Constitution, and the courts are there to preserve our God-given rights given to us by the Constitution. And that's why I would work hard on the court to continue whatever efforts we can to teach education to our young people and even to our adults, that they do have a proper role. The role of the courts is not to legislate, it's to hear the cases fairly and impartially and reach decisions based on the facts and the law.
All right, Judge Welch, we've got about a minute left here. How do you want to expand that?
Well, I wholeheartedly agree. Amendment 80 to our Constitution requires that judges run as nonpartisan candidates devoid of party labels and represent all of the people in Arkansas, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, fairly. And I have tried to maintain this candidacy and this campaign in that way, running as a candidate who goes to talk to Republicans and talk to Democrats and talk to interest groups and talk to all Arkansans and try to provide them that kind of expectation of fairness. And again, I'm the one who's been elected to the bench twice. Yeah. And I don't know what bench you're talking about, Barbara, but you've been in the Workers' Comp Commission, which doesn't even have jury trials, and that's not a bench, it's not a general jurisdiction court. So thank you for correcting me, and forgive me for correcting you.
Well, and I just want to say first, my opponent has made a big issue about the partisan, saying that I'm the only one that's partisan in this race, but he has failed to disclose to the voters that he ran as a Democrat. He also has given over 58 contributions to Democrat officials. Isn't that true, Mr. Welch?
So this is not part of your partisan candidacy, right?
No,
you're asking, and what difference would that
make?
I've given money to Republicans.
About your background.
I've given money to Republicans and Democrats, and I did run 40 years ago when I was 29 for the legislature as a Democrat. And you know why? There weren't any Republicans.
When you gave to Barack Obama, wanting to be a federal judgeship under Barack Obama. And I just want the voters to understand your background, because you're saying you're not partisan.
I gave to Barack Obama. But prove that. That's just a lie,
Well, you can
Barbara.
go to the website, opensecret.org, and put Morgan Welch into that website, and it will show all 58.
Well, I contributed to Barack Obama.
All right, guys, I'm gonna have to cut you off here. We are up on time with a spirited debate, and we will definitely keep up with this one here for sure here. But like I said, we're bumping up on a break here, but we certainly do appreciate both you guys coming in here.
And she gave money to the governor just before he appointed her to the bench. That doesn't mean he sold it to her either.
Well, I would dispute that, but.
All right, we'll save it for another day. Absolutely, here, getting feisty here on Capitol View. Well, hey, coming up after a quick break, a race for a Court of Appeals heats up in the Ouachita Mountains. 2 candidates in the race. They will join us here in studio next. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
It's our Factory Direct Pool and Spa sale at Family Leisure.
Buy now and save big. Higher quality pools, fast professional installation, spas. Now is the time to buy. All spas and swim spas are priced to move.
Factory Direct Pool and Spa sale going on now at Family Leisure.
The President's Day Super Sale at Furniture Row has been extended, and you don't want to miss it. Shop today and find amazing deals store-wide on dining, living, bedroom, and mattresses. And best of all, the more you buy, the more you save. Save $100 on every $1,000 you spend. Or score a free patio set when you spend $29.99 or more. Plus, 7 years no-interest financing. But hurry, the extended President's Day Super Sale at Furniture Row ends soon.
Ignite something. Ignite excitement. Ignite curiosity, adventure, and small moments of beauty. Only the perfect cut unleashes a diamond's power to ignite hearts on fire.
Come see us at Cecil's Fine Jewelry.
If you have $1 and 2 relatives and you need to do some estate planning but you don't know what to do, you think a will is sufficient or you don't do anything at all, and I tell people all the time here at the Nash Law Firm, you could die, you know. You need to do some estate planning. You need to do something that will protect your family, save them money when you die, save them time. Now's the time to do your estate planning. Call me, Mary Nash, at the Nash Law Firm. Come see me and Bear. Let us help you with your estate planning to protect your family.
It's our Factory Direct Patio Furniture Sale at Family
Thanksgiving is just around the corner. Shop now for the largest selection at guaranteed lowest prices. Factory direct pricing on all of the best brands, hundreds of in-stock sets.
Factory Direct patio furniture sale going on now at Family Leisure.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back into Capitol View. Voters will decide who sits on the Arkansas Court of Appeals in southern and western Arkansas. Emily White and Stephanie Potter Barrett are campaigning to take the position of second seat in District 4. It's a lot, these judge races, I'm telling you. There's a lot of sub things going on here. It's a 15-county district settled in the Ouachita Mountains, and there you see also in western Arkansas. And the candidates join me now. Guys, we appreciate you coming in here. Stephanie, we'll start with you. Kind of give us a little bit of a background on who you are, what you've been doing.
Okay, I am currently the elected prosecuting attorney for the 8th Judicial District South. I'm in my second term. Prior to that, I was a deputy prosecuting attorney, and prior to that, I was in private practice for 7 years. And before I went into private practice, I was a law clerk at the Arkansas Court of Appeals for about 3 years, right out of law school.
Now, let me ask you too this, is there a certain focus that you have on, like, what kind of law, what's your scope?
Currently, as a prosecuting attorney,
you're just getting everybody then.
It's criminal law, but
right.
I have a background in both civil and criminal law and appellate work.
All right, Emily.
Well, currently I'm the full-time district court judge in a 2-county district. That's the 33rd State District Court.
Right.
I've been serving in that capacity pursuant to a gubernatorial appointment about 2 years ago.
Right.
Prior to that, though, I worked as the deputy executive director at Arkansas Judicial Discipline and Disability Commission. And I did that for roughly 5 years. But I came to that position before that as a Pulaski County prosecuting attorney and a civil attorney in this city in Little Rock, working for one law firm for about 8 years.
I guess kind of what was your focus, your scope during that time?
I would say, well, the build-up to everything in my career thus far, I would say, has probably led me to a professional focus on judicial ethics.
Okay.
Jay, I spent 5 years as oversight counsel for the judiciary in this state.
Right.
And that gave me a different perspective as a judge. So when the governor appointed me to be a judge, I brought to the bench a different perspective from most attorneys who've risen to the level of wearing the robe.
And two, I guess kind of focusing on that, what's sort of your philosophy, your judicial philosophy, when you look at cases, and I assume you're at the Court of Appeals, you're going to see a pretty wide gambit of things.
That's
here.
Exactly
but
right.
what is sort of your philosophy on things?
I believe really the judges should focus on two things, and that's the independence of the role of the judiciary and being transparent in their dealings. I think that's important, and I learned that at Judicial Discipline and Disability Commission. You know, the judges in the judicial branch of government, they're really the gatekeepers. Yeah. It's not their job to create, it's their job to apply. And so I take that very seriously with my perspective, having that ethical background. Right. So I would say independence and transparency in the judiciary. I believe in fairness. I believe in truly an impartial third branch of government. And I believe that judges have an obligation to be neutral and detached at all times. And if they can't do that, I think they need to step aside.
And I guess, Stephanie, kind of what's your philosophy here?
Honesty, fairness, integrity, and upholding the Constitution. I believe that every case that comes, excuse me, every case that comes before the Court of Appeals should be treated fairly and equally. Politics should not play a part, and there should not be legislation from the bench. I'm against activist courts, and I just believe in fairness and equality.
You say you're against activist courts. Let me ask you this, though. How much of a role do you think that the Court of Appeals should play just being out there, whether it be in an educational role or just being, just a plain old community member?
The Court of Appeals is a court that reviews circuit court cases. And so the facts and circumstances of each case have already been presented. Sure. And so we're just reviewing those cases. And so there really is not a role for the Court of Appeals judge to go out in the community and advocate one way or the other. That the law is not made by Court of Appeals judges in the sense of legislation. Yeah. So we are to take the law as it has been made and apply it to the facts of the case.
And let me ask you the same thing. Sure. Do you think there's a role, not necessarily for activism, but just to sort of be a face out there in the community.
I do. You know, our Supreme Court, back under Chief Justice Hanna, actually initiated what we call the Courts and Community Initiative.
Yeah.
And it's an initiative for judges in our state to go into our non-legal civic organizations and educate or refresh everyone's recollection about how our government was established. And I think that's one role that our Court of Appeals and our appellate court judges and justices can do. Now, I serve in that capacity for our Administrative Office of the Courts, and I am one of the district court judges that's had the opportunity to do that. I would like to see more of our appellate court judges and our circuit court judges do that, because it is a neutral reminder about how our government was established. And I think that that's something that I would like to personally see more of our judges doing in our communities, rather than sitting back and taking a behind-the-scenes role. I think that's something that we can do as judges to educate how the judicial branch of government was established originally and how it's supposed to operate.
All right, guys, we got a couple minutes here, so I'm going to give you sort of, this is your soapbox now to get on here. Emily, I'll let you go first. I guess for me, John Q. voter, I don't know anything about this race. Sell me on Emily White.
The Court of Appeals, Jay, here's the vast amount of appeals that comes from our circuit courts. It's very important that the judges who sit on our appellate courts have not only a vast amount of legal experience, but also judicial experience. You see, being a judge is much different from being an advocate. Advocates pick one side and they argue that side. But once I became a judge 2 years ago, that role for me changed. Right. I'd spent 17 years being an advocate, but now I am the neutral. And that perspective is something that I think we need on our Court of Appeals. We need appellate court judges who have judicial experience. It's much different to argue a side of a case in circuit court than it is to sit in judgment over both sides of a case, whether it be at the district court level, at the circuit court level, or at the appellate court level. Right. And quite frankly, I'm the only one in this race that has all of that experience, both legal, trial experience in the criminal arena and in the civil arena, and the judicial experience on top of that. The icing on the cake for my position is that I have the professional ethics background that really only a handful of attorneys across this state can say they have.
All right. Okay. Stephanie Barrett, I am just a nobody here. Sell me on Stephanie Porter Barrett.
Stephanie Potter
Barrett, excuse me. I started combining the two names there.
That's fine. Being that they are a review court, it is vitally important that whoever sits at the Court of Appeals has extensive trial experience in circuit court. It's only the cases from circuit court that get appealed. So I have spent the last 22 years in circuit court trying the type of cases that are reviewed by the Court of Appeals, and I think that experience is important. I am the only candidate that has experience as an appellate attorney, both in private practice and serving as a law clerk, and I'm the only one that's argued before the Court of Appeals. I have had experience sitting in special as a district judge when I was in private practice, and the local district judge had conflicts, so I have sat in a judicial capacity. I have not touted that experience because that is not the type of experience that would be beneficial to the Court of Appeals, because the Court of Appeals is a research and writing position. And so I'm the only candidate that has a research and writing background that is relevant to the Court of Appeals.
All right, so there you go, guys. We certainly do appreciate you bringing a little light here to these judicial races. We know they're kind of one of those races that not a lot of people necessarily pay a lot of attention to, so we certainly appreciate your time, and best of luck come Super Tuesday.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
You bet, absolutely. Well, the most watched Democratic presidential debate heated up last week as the candidates fight for a top spot before the primary election. Our friend Chuck Todd joins us when we come back down to break it all down. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
Steve's Auto Body in Searcy, the collision repair experts. At Steve's, we are known for flawless work and quick turnaround. We work with all insurance companies and can handle your claim start to finish. Call 501-380-6345 or stop by Steve's at 200 East Line Road in Searcy.
There is a complete lack of empathy in this guy in the White House right now. And I will bring that to you. If you have trouble stretching your paycheck to pay for that rent, I know you, and I will fight for you. If you have trouble deciding if you're going to pay for your child care or your long-term care, I know you, and I will fight for you. I would love your vote, and I would love the vote of America. Thank you.
I'm Amy Klobuchar, and I approve this message.
Hi, I'm John Cossey. At Crawl Space Solutions of Arkansas, we offer all things crawl spacey. Our clean space system will transform your crawl space into a dry, healthy, and clean environment. Call Crawl Space Solution of Arkansas today for all things crawl spacey.
This is my house. My parents helped build it. Now we don't get wet when it rains. I don't get too hot or too cold inside. I can play with my sister. I can play with my brother. I can play with my mother, my father, my family. This is my house. This is my house. This is my house. This is my house.
This is my house.
Visit Habitat.org to find out how you can help more families like mine.
Come and enjoy a new experience in shopping for your home. At Aladdin Rugs and Home Decor, we have over 5,000 rugs in the latest colors and styles. Bring your pillows, your pillow shams, and sizes. We will help you select the perfect rug. We're #1 in customer service with 15,000 square feet of rugs, unique home decor, wallpaper, and flooring. Remember, buy today, take it home today, and save. Why wait?
Are you looking for something new or exciting to do?
Maybe a delicious twist.
Oh, it sounds good. You have to join us for DJ and Heather's Bucket List.
Yes, because we're going to have all the must-haves around Central Arkansas.
DJ and Heather's Bucket List on KARK4 today.
Steve's Auto Body in Searcy, the collision repair experts. At Steve's, we are known for flawless work and quick turnaround. We work with all insurance companies and can handle your claim start to finish. Call 501-380-6345 or stop by Steve's at 200 East Line Road in Searcy.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Well, we finally got some fireworks out of the Democrats, as last week they went at it on stage and they finally brought the gloves out. And our good friend of the show here, Chuck Todd, actually had a front row seat to that. And Chuck, for me sitting in my living room, it was something else. But for you, to see that in person and just the way that they finally brought some emotion to this thing, what was that like for you?
Well, it was. I mean, I hate to beat up on the Vegas cliches, but it was literally having a ringside seat to a massive, I guess, a boxing match meets WrestleMania. I wasn't close enough to actually feel the sweat hit you or the spitting between Klobuchar and Buttigieg coming at you, type of thing. Look, I'm always a little hesitant to judge what I saw in person because, as you know, the television cutaway shots sometimes tell an important story. So, for instance, I noticed Michael Bloomberg's what I would call bad facial expressions. What I was curious about is how many of those dismissive expressions made it onto TV. I mean, at one point he was doing sort of throwing a hand, and he sort of, you could see he let his irritation show through nonverbal cues. And I could see it, and the only question I had, Jay, was to see how much did that make it on a TV. I've seen enough clips to realize a lot of it did make it on television, and that in some ways can almost reinforce a night for somebody, good or bad, depending on almost their nonverbal cues. And in the case of Bloomberg, as I think the idea he didn't want to be there came through loud and clear at times.
Do you almost think this, because I know he's been really big in sort of jumping into this thing now, do you almost think that this was probably worst case scenario for him? He comes out, he looks disengaged, he got beat up in this one, and the internet memes are flying about the guy.
I do. Look, I think it's about, that's a great way of putting it. I think I didn't expect him to do well. I will tell you that going forward, simply because you had 5 people on that stage that had already done 8 of these debates. It's like being in mid-season form versus somebody who had yet to do spring training. So I expected rust, and he had never done a group debate. He had only really done one-on-one debates before. A group dynamic, you got to learn how to, make room for yourself. He was waiting for us, the moderators, to get him in all the time when all of the other candidates figured out how to bully their way in when necessary and do certain things. So I didn't expect him to do well, but I didn't expect him to be unprepared. And what he came across was unprepared, and I think that is hard to erase. His television ads are telling you one thing: nobody's better prepared. And if you're running a technocrat campaign, I'm the best, then you should have answers ready for your baggage, and he didn't.
Well, it's going to be fun to watch this one as it unfolds, especially if they keep this level of feistiness here. I guess
I think they will next week.
I am looking forward to it. The gloves are off, and I can't wait here. Chuck, we appreciate your time here. We'll get you leading into South Carolina as well.
Sounds good, Jay. Thanks, man.
All right, appreciate it. We're back to wrap it up right after this. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
Mark your calendar. It's time for the 2020 Arkansas Flower and Garden Show, February 28th through March 1st at the Arkansas State Fairgrounds. The state's largest flower and garden show features over 100 vendors from across the country, showcasing beautiful gardens built on site. Talk with experts about plant health, honeybees, and much more. Shop floral displays, indoor gardens, and discover the latest trends in landscape design. Get your tickets today. The 2020 Arkansas Flower and Garden Show at the Arkansas State Fairgrounds.
Not all news has to be bad. We want to share the good in our communities, telling stories of love, happiness, triumph over tragedy. So join us Fridays at 5 and let's share a smile.
Good News Matters on KARK, sponsored by MNV.
The rear wing broke loose. Toki managed to save it.
Scared me. I didn't know what happened. I heard a pop. I thought the motor blew up, put oil under my tires, but it didn't. It got up on sort of one side. Boy, I pulled that chute and hung on for dear life.
We're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And that is it for today's show. Thank you for tuning in. We are back with an all-new Capitol View next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.